if we look at the decomposition of completed fertility, we find the change, the decline in total fertility is largely within group change. Within group change, between the structure, the percentage of education group shares contributes less. Okay, so it's mainly the decline within each education level. Okay, so within education group change explains the majority of fertility decline. Okay, educational composition, a sizable 20 to 40%. Okay, and interaction term is very small. And this is by parity. Okay, one and more children is about one, okay? And then the two and more children, or three and more children, declines over time significantly. Childless rate has also gone up tremendously. Okay, so before 1965, childless rate was very low, but since 1965, it going up crazy. Okay. And by education, it's also childless. College above, right? This curve is the college and above is more obvious. Is more is stronger, childless. And we also find the childless decomposition within group is the main reason. The composition and other things are minor. So in a short summary, the decline in birth rate is the main reason for the decline in the number of births in 2012 to 2021. Okay, the decline in number of current women explain a small portion of the decline in number of births. Now, demographically, the origin of the decline in birth rate, we find less first births, less births for women at age 20 to 29, and less births for women with low education. So this is quite surprising, and less births for women with low education. Traditionally, we might think women with low education have a lot of children, but not so anymore in China. And also less births for local non-migrants. And the decline in completed fertility mainly results from within education group fertility decline. Composition is a smaller contribution. And the other feature is fertility decline associates with a narrowing of fertility differential. Okay, and the rising childless rate. Okay. So we now look at some economics analysis. So the policy, China's policy objective or the narratives. 2000, the central government directive was stabilizing at low fertility. And 2010, okay, Premier Li Keqiang stabilized at the appropriate low fertility rate. 2021, the 14th five-year plan archive appropriate fertility level. So the change in the policy direction. Now the question is, what is appropriate fertility level? Okay. There was a lot of research in early years on optimal population, but that debate seems to yield no final conclusion because a lot of work was based on a fixed environment and try to figure out what is optimum population. But then, of course, environment, natural resources, and so on, productivities, production, everything is endogenous. So the discussion on optimal fertility cannot yield any meaningful result. Now, the way we think, and many people think probably, is to take a criteria of population survival, right? So the question is whether we want to have many children and but low quality, or whether we have less children but with high quality. But regardless, right, the society has to survive, and the consensus is we need to have 2.1, the replacement level fertility. Okay, so for a nation, we care about appropriate population quantity, quality, and structure, right? So those things we all care, and we also try to strengthen national competitiveness, right? Now, the demographic transition, right, has been driven by many reasons. One important thing has been the rising return to human capital. And through the quantity-quality trade-off, the rising return to human capital would raise the cost of education and childcare. And as a result, number of children will be small, but quality will be high. Other economic reason which might affect fertility is rising housing prices. My earlier work with Ye has shown that. Of course, the main reason in the literature is rising female education, which means higher opportunity cost of female time for childbirth. Okay, and other authors have also estimated direct cost of having a child in China. Okay, so 500,000 Chinese yuan. Okay, so that's 7 times GDP of per capita. Okay, and that excluding any opportunity cost or time cost. So the demographic transition means decline fertility and rising per capita welfare. This demographic transition per se does not call for government intervention in fertility. Okay, intervention needs other issues. Now, recently there have been some studies which shows that at higher level of economic development, the negative correlation between fertility and per capita welfare weakens. Okay, so that means some hope for intervention. Other true fact that the negative correlation between fertility and economic development, if it always holds and it always becomes stronger and stronger, then the fertility decline will be inevitable, right? But the recent some studies show this relationship has been weakening. So that means we still have some hope. Maybe fertility will not go down further. Of course, as I noted earlier, low fertility has been a global phenomenon, has been a global challenge. So total fertility OECD average, right, always going down all the time. And also below 2.1. And okay, United Kingdom, France. So this fact supports my statement that low fertility is a global phenomenon and is a global challenge. Now, why we need to intervene? Okay, what is the rationale for regulating fertility? The way we look at the issue is fertility needs intervention, government intervention, when social cost is not equal to private cost. Now, why restrict fertility? This is the case if social cost is greater than private cost. Okay, and this would happen if there are negative external effects of people. For example, war and infectious disease, transportation and environmental deterioration, pollution. External effect of people refers to individual effect. Okay, so when there is non-contractable effect, okay, exists, then we have externality. And especially if there are negative externality, then we need to regulate, we need to restrict fertility. So the penalty is like a tax. So we think perhaps Deng's policy logic was to limit births to leverage on a positive externality of a high quality population for national welfare. Now, why encourage fertility is the opposite, when social cost is less than private cost. Now, this would happen if there are positive external effects of people. And this is probably is a crisis we are in now. We are currently in this track, okay? Positive external effects can happen for several reasons. One is there's knowledge spillover, induce technological progress, okay? And the other one, which is more common, is non-credible commitment between generations, which means children cannot make credible commitment to parents. So parents, if they have children, but they cannot sign a contract with unborn children. So parents are not fully compensated for childbearing. Okay, so this is number one reason. And number two major reason, other than the first reason, positive externality. The other reason is non-credible commitment exists between the husband and the wife. Okay, that's because the family childbearing burden largely falls on the females, on the mother, and the husband cannot make credible commitment to the female partner. So the female partner are not fully compensated for childbearing. So these three are the all positive externality which cannot be easily internalized. So that leads to the situation social cost is less than private cost. Private cost could mean the parents or could mean the mother, right? Socially there is benefit, but for the parties involved, the sacrifice is not cannot be credibly compensated. So as I said, non-credible commitment between generation. As I said, the children cannot sign a credible contract with the parents because they are unborn. And non-credible commitment between partners, okay, is also a reason for women not willing to have more children. So if we target at the two commitment problems and look at the issue in a life cycle context, so we have a few things involved: reproductive health, child care, education, marriage, and old age support. All this especially number 2, 3, 4. The next 4 are the important thing to tackle, to solve the problem, or to mitigate the problem. Now, let me make our main contribution. Here is our main policy proposal, is our main hypothesis. Okay, so we have this argument, differential fertility mobility proposal or proposition. Okay, the idea is to make use of the fact there is still fertility differential among different groups of people. For example, the lower educated group, or the higher educated group, or the group with low income versus high income. The fertility differential still exists, and it can be further leveraged, right? So if we design appropriate incentives, which call birth incentives and also social securities, if we subsidize the poor people more in have children, poor people would be more responding to financial incentives, right? So poor people have comparative advantage in having children, right? Rich people or high income people or highly educated people have comparative advantage in production, in physical production, in income generating activity, in paying the tax, right? Low income people, they are more responding to financial incentive. So the two groups have different comparative advantage. Of course, there is a problem involved. If we just encourage the poor people to have a lot of children with appropriate subsidy, but then the society still may face another problem. The social inequality will be increasing, right? Because the poor people having a lot of children with lower education, although they are appropriately subsidized, but their future is still much less promising than the high-income family. So if we just simply taking care of the comparative advantage, that would lead to another severe problem. So the second aspect of our proposal is we must provide equal education opportunities to children of different income class or education class. So for example, we must provide good education opportunity for families in the rural areas, for disadvantaged families. So this is very important, because only if we provide good equal opportunity education opportunities can we overcome the future income inequality. Okay, so there are two aspects. One is to give a strong financial incentive to people who may be responding to fertility. And at the same time, we protect those low-income families by providing equal quality education, maybe providing them with a township education voucher or urban education voucher. Maybe this is very difficult to achieve, but at least this is direction we should make every effort to achieve. So this way, the society attains higher fertility and avoids the education problem of disadvantaged family, and thus avoids social inequality. Okay, so the two aspects must be both pursued and exercised rigorously to increase fertility and also to avoid increasing social inequality. And this policy providing disadvantaged family with equal education opportunity is both productivity enhancing and welfare enhancing, right? China is now in an era of common prosperity, right? So only if children of disadvantaged family can be provided with equal education opportunity earlier on, can we achieve both productivity and social fairness at the same time. Subsidy or protection at the late stage is only welfare improving, but not productivity improving. So maybe I'm running out of time, so let me skip things. And we have done a lot of research, so let me turn to the conclusion. There will be summarizing of all those research, and our research, our own research on the literature and on different policy in many countries. So let me turn to the summary page. I think I will not lose any real issues. I can come back if any issue needs some further elaboration. So other than that, the major policy proposal, which I spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes to elaborate. So as part of that proposal, those are the specific policies we should consider or should not consider. On the pro-natalist policies, okay, we argue that we should improve access to contraceptives to avoid teenager pregnancy, and no bans on abortion. Okay, and we find parental leave policy may not work. Okay, several studies have shown that parental leave policy does not seem to work. We propose we should use a fixed amount child benefit, regardless of work status or marital status. Okay, and we also argue we should raise child tax exemption considerably. Right now it's too small in China. Okay, we should raise to 2,000 to 5,000 per month per child. Okay, and very importantly, we should provide universal child care, covering the disadvantaged population, especially the migrants. Okay, and we should increase the education supply rather than suppressing it. Okay, and we should cultivate a new social norm. Parents share child care burden. Okay, 3 generations: grandparents, parents, and children. So parents share child care burden. And we should cultivate filial piety, raising pecuniary and non-pecuniary returns of education. Okay, and our most important policy recommendation is to have this to leverage on differential fertility and further deepening or further strengthening increase the fertility differential. Okay, by providing the poor family with strong financial incentives, and then can further the fertility differential than current differential. And then at the same time, we should pay a strong attention to social mobility. So, which means we should provide equal education opportunities to rural and migrant families, so that they receive appropriate education and better educations they are receiving now. And this way, the poor family have more higher fertility and their children are better educated. So the whole society would benefit. And we hope those policies, okay, there's various policies, child benefit, child tax exemption, and universal child care. And I think we should list one more item, maybe income dependent child, means tested child benefit, okay, which means low income family receive more subsidy for having a child. I think we should have one more point here, and that would correspond to the system or the idea on differential fertility. And we hope those measures, and with our grand proposal, we hope it's not too late to increase the fertility, which is an issue of national survival. Okay, thank you.